The subsidy war and the global chicken game, the rise of China's EV industry and concerns for the world market. What you are about to hear is not merely a story about the changing automobile industry, but a crucial issue directly tied to the order of international trade and the balance of the global economy. Today, electric vehicles are not just means of transportation, they stand at the very center of climate change response, energy transition, and high-tech competition. Among them, China has, over the past decade, elevated the EV industry to a core national strategic sector and, through massive subsidies, risen to become the world's leading electric vehicle powerhouse. Yet this rapid growth is not simply a tale of success. Instead, it has triggered a global chicken game, raising concerns about unfair competition and disruption of industrial ecosystems. In this talk, we will take a deep look into China's EV subsidy policies, the ripple effects across the global market, and the challenges the international community now faces. China began its full-scale development of the EV industry in 2009. At that time, the government launched its new energy vehicle, NEV, strategy and poured enormous subsidies and infrastructure investments into the sector. According to a report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, between 2009 and 2023, the Chinese government supported the EV industry with a staggering $230.9 billion. This was not merely industrial assistance, it was a state-level investment war. Thanks to this massive financial backing, China secured the #1 position in EV production and sales worldwide. However, it also created structural issues of overproduction and severe price competition. Now, we must examine how exactly these subsidies are driving the global chicken game. First, overproduction has deepened the price war. Today, more than 100 EV companies exist in China, producing far more than market demand requires. This oversupply inevitably results in cutthroat competition, forcing companies to slash prices drastically just to survive. The dynamic resembles a chicken game, where players lower prices until competitors collapse. While this benefits consumers in the short run, in the long term it risks eliminating global competitors and leading to monopolization by Chinese firms. Already, cheap Chinese EVs are rapidly penetrating markets in the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia, displacing local players. Second, China's vertical integration strategy maximizes its control over costs. China is not only excelling in EV assembly but also dominates the critical battery sector with giants such as CATL and BYD. These companies control key raw materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, while simultaneously producing both batteries and vehicles under one corporate structure. Such end-to-end control, from resources to finished cars, results in cost efficiency and unmatched pricing power. As foreign firms depend increasingly on Chinese-made batteries, China's dominance in the EV market grows ever stronger. Third, these subsidies distort the global industrial ecosystem. Competing with Chinese firms that enjoy massive state support is almost impossible for foreign companies. For those attempting to enter the Chinese market, they face an uneven playing field dominated by low-cost Chinese competitors. This has turned China's domestic EV sector into an exclusive league of Chinese companies. At the same time, intense price wars are draining even Chinese firms themselves of resources for our /&D, stifling long-term innovation in favor of short-term survival. The unfair competition has also provoked protective measures abroad. The EU has launched an anti-subsidy investigation into Chinese EVs, while the US is considering imposing high countervailing tariffs. What began as industrial rivalry is now threatening the stability of the global trade order. So the critical question arises, who will ultimately win this chicken game? China has immense capital, overwhelming production capacity, and the unwavering backing of the state. On the other hand, the US and European companies still lead in technology but cannot easily match China's aggressive price competition. If effective countermeasures are not established, the global EV market may eventually be reshaped into a monopoly under Chinese firms. While monopoly may offer low prices initially, in the long term it risks slowing innovation, reducing consumer choice, and destabilizing the market. Another important point to note is that even though China has declared it will give up developing country benefits in the global arena, it continues to support strategic sectors like clean energy. This demonstrates that while presenting itself as a responsible major power, China is simultaneously protecting its key industries and expanding global competitiveness. In other words, its subsidy policy is not just economic, it is deeply intertwined with international political strategy. The international community is therefore confronted with a major challenge. Nations must pursue the shared goal of combating climate change and accelerating green transition while simultaneously curbing China's monopolistic ambitions and ensuring fair competition. Addressing this issue requires more than tariffs and regulations. It calls for new rules in multilateral trade agreements, mechanisms to ensure transparency in subsidy policies, and international safeguards for fair competition. Furthermore, countries must reinforce their domestic EV industries by investing in R&D, expanding infrastructure, and diversifying supply chains. Finally, we must not forget that this problem extends beyond mere industrial rivalry. It is closely tied to the future of humanity itself. The EV industry is central to overcoming the climate crisis. But if one nation monopolizes the market through unfair means, it risks undermining sustainable global development. The world must therefore redefine the balance between competition and cooperation. Finding solutions to the chicken game sparked by China's subsidies is not just an economic task but also a prerequisite for preserving the global economic order. In closing, let me emphasize once more, the rise of China's EV industry is not just the success story of a single nation. It is a challenge posed to the entire global economy and international order, and a puzzle we must solve together. Who will emerge as the final winner in this chicken game? And more importantly, what choices must we make to protect the future of markets, the climate, and the shared prosperity of humankind? The search for answers has already begun, and all of us must take part in shaping them.